Thank you, Brian, and good morning to all of you. We've titled this news conference, A Profile in Hypocrisy. Strong words, but entirely accurate. As Brian said, the General Assembly received the Ohio Health and Families Act during the first week in January. It's now the second week in April, and the paid sick day bill has received no legislative action of any kind. No committee assignments, no hearings, no votes, no nothing. In fact, after more than 3 months, the legislative leadership hasn't even seen fit to give the HFA a bill number. What makes this especially disappointing is that on February 20th, House Speaker John Husted publicly promised his constituents and this coalition that the bill would get a hearing. That was 7 weeks ago. And now the deadline for legislative action is just 30 days away. In fairness, it should be pointed out that many members of the legislature have told us that they do support paid sick days and would vote to enact the bill. But it appears that the General Assembly's leadership has no intention of passing paid sick days or even bringing it to a vote. It appears that they want paid sick days to go on the ballot. Well, if a ballot fight is what they want, a ballot fight is what they will get. And in the meantime, we think voters should know there's a big difference between what their representatives say and what their representatives do when it comes to paid sick days. Thanks to a public records request, we now know that the same legislators who say they don't think paid sick days should be mandated for regular people have no problem with giving paid sick days to themselves. And they have no problem with asking the taxpayers to pay for it. Let me repeat that. The same legislators who say Ohio can't afford to pass paid sick days for average families see no problem with taking paid sick days for themselves. And they stick taxpayers who don't have paid sick days with the bill. Some people would call that chutzpah. I call it hypocrisy with a capital H. And when you look at the public records themselves, the situation becomes even more outrageous. As you can see on the far poster board, members of the General Assembly, who helpfully write their own rules, have decided that they should be paid for the days of work they miss, as long as legislative leaders approve their requests for excused absences. In other words, legislators judge each other. Pretty sweet deal. Most of us don't get to let our co-workers decide if we should get paid for the days of work we miss. And according to the records that we've examined, from 2005 through February 15th of 2008, House members requested excused absences for a total of 510 missed session days. In the Senate, excused absences were requested for 114 missed session days. Now we know that many of these excused absences that were requested were approved. And we know that because the approvals many times are noted right on the letters themselves. What we don't know is how many requests were turned down. Perhaps those of you in the news media will ask that question of House and Senate leaders. Personally, I'm betting that the answer is not a single solitary one was turned down. So, were all the reasons given for excused absences legitimate? Hard to say, since a majority of them do not give any reason at all for the member's absence. On the poster board that's being unveiled here now, we've enlarged a couple of representative examples of what I'm talking about. One of them you'll see there is no excuse at all. That's the one on the far left. Simply, I'll be absent. The second one indicates that the member will be out for 2 weeks. He'll miss 2 weeks of session. The first one is because he's going to be at a conference, but the second week, he's out for personal reasons. But he wants to be paid for that period of time. Now, I might mention that we've redacted the members' names from these letters because it's not our intent to embarrass or call attention to particular individuals here. What we're trying to highlight is the hypocrisy and the double standard of the system. Now, please understand what these undisclosed reasons mean. At the same time that some legislators are saying they don't like the Healthy Families Act because they're afraid that average people will cheat and stay home when they're not really sick, legislators themselves expect to get paid for days missed for personal reasons or for no reason at all.